welcome back to Inside Boxing's Throwdown. I'm Aurelio Martinez, Stephen Johnson, and we got a show here for you. We're going to talk about someone who is rarely talked about when you talk about icon fighters. Great fighters, good fighters, fighters that people just kind of talk about on a daily basis, you know, like the best. And I'm talking about our man, Joe Calzaghe from the UK. Okay?
Yes, sir.
You know, we're going to talk about him because, to be honest with you, the man was a bad boy, man. He was a bad boy, and he proved it on his way out. You got some fighters. Fighters are typical because they start their boxing careers, Steve, fighting nobodies just to kind of break into the pro rankings. And that was a necessity back in the days because making the transition from amateur to pro, you kind of needed that learning curve. Okay, so that was but they still do it now for different reasons. And then you get them where they rise to the top, the ones that have the opportunity to rise to the top, and then they end their career the same way they started, by fighting, what do you want to call them? By fighting...
Not bums, don't use the word
No, I'm
bums.
not going to say bums, but by fighting...
lesser competition. Lesser competition.
Okay, let's leave it that way. Okay, so let's talk about Joe Calzaghe, because we want to give Calzaghe his due, because actually he was up there on the top, and he is one of the greats. So let's talk about him. I mean, Steve, give us your 2 cents. Tell us a little bit about your take on Joe.
Well, not to jump too far ahead, but one of the things I always remembered about Joe Calzaghe is the controversy of him being from the UK and only fighting in the UK or fighting in Europe, and American boxers, specifically Roy Jones and Bernard Hopkins, refused to go fight over in the UK. They always felt like they were going to be there was going to be a robbery, and to be honest, that was pretty much the truth. You know, when our American boxers went over there, if it was shaky, is a word I like to use rather than robbed, but it was shaky.
It was hard to win. And it still is. Even today, it's hard to win when you go out of your home turf.
Yes.
You know?
Okay, so that was a hard thing for him to go, but along the ways with Joe Calzaghe, it was one of the ones that everyone knew that in the super welterweight division, I'm sorry, super middleweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight. Joe Calzaghe was somebody that had to be dealt with, and to be honest, Roy and Bernard really didn't want to deal with him. That's the real deal of it. They didn't want to deal with him. And finally, you know, like you said, on his way out, he was able to knock off not one but both of them. In dramatic fashion. You know. But like I said, once again, you know, the knock on that is that Joe finally came over to the United States when Bernard and Roy were on their way out, and so a lot of people still looked at that as it's not that good. It doesn't matter because Roy and Bernard are still fighting now. Okay, so.
And if they were, you know, the thing about it is I heard the same stories you heard. You know, Roy and Bernard were old. They, you know, he came in to fight him when they were old. But Calzaghe wasn't a spring chicken either.
No, okay? They were all, you know, like you said, Bernard was the old man of the bunch.
Exactly.
Okay, and then there was Roy, and there was only 3 years age difference between Roy and Calzaghe.
Exactly, so. And they were basically in their prime. They were active boxers. They were active, so it wasn't like they had been retired and coming back. They were active boxers.
Exactly.
And they knew they could beat each other. Okay, take Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins, if I'm not mistaken, that fight when they signed the fight against with Hopkins and Calzaghe, he made that famous interview where he said, "I will never let a white boy beat me." Never. I mean, he was adamant. I mean, anyone that saw that, you can see he was adamant. And what happened?
The white boy beat him.
Beat him soundly.
Yeah, he did.
No controversy.
Well, the only controversy was one that Roy made. And you guys that don't know, the other guys, old heads, will remember, Bernard made it controversial because, as usual, Bernard got hit, I think it was in the 10th or 11th round, got hit with a low blow. It was low. But, man, the dude went into his acting mode like everybody knows he does now. He laid around, and he even made the comment that my testicle came out of my cup. It was out of the side of my cup.
I remember that.
And then Las Vegas judges, as a matter of fact, made it controversial because the scores were all over the place. Adelaide Bird, as a matter of fact, had Bernard Hopkins winning the fight. So, once again, the same thing that happened in the United States, um, it usually would be reversed.
Yeah, it was fought.
Yeah, but here Joe
on the other
wins.
side of the pond.
Joe wins clearly on 2 judges' cards, and another one is we don't know what fight she was watching. But bottom line is that Joe won the fight after being knocked down in the first round.
Exactly.
And the same thing when he fought Roy Jones. He got knocked down in the first round.
Right. See, the thing about it is you get the fighters like that, you know, from the United States and good fighters, you know, they always tend to find or look for an excuse as to why. Okay, well, don't look for an excuse. Just take it like a man. Okay, it's not like you got beat by a nobody.
Yeah.
Just as like take Pacquiao this last weekend. He basically got beat by a nobody. Okay,
yeah.
So there's reason to try to find excuses in all this. But when you fight someone that's in their prime, just as you are, and you're both talking stuff, and you both believe you're going to beat each other, and then you end up losing, well, you lost.
Well, remember, that's one of the things about Joe. Why we wanted to talk about him. Joe Calzaghe never talked stuff. He wasn't one of those guys that did a lot of talking.
He didn't.
He was one of the guys that actually was, you know, one of the guys that we remember always used to say, "I'll let my fists do the talking."
You know, let's talk about Calzaghe and his style of fighting, because he was action packed. He came in, threw a lot of punches.
He's a southpaw. Don't forget he's a southpaw.
He was a southpaw, threw a lot of punches, and he had an awkward style of fighting, awkward movement, but his punches were pinpoint.
Yes,
okay,
he was very sharp.
They weren't your typical, you know, pinpoint pop accuracy type thing. They came from different angles. They came in bunches, and they landed. They landed to the target. So that's what made him so hard to get for someone to beat him, was because he had that style. So you had to be in a defensive mode, or else you were going to get clocked. And I'll tell you what, he beat a lot of folks. I mean, actually, he beat Jeff Lacy when Jeff Lacy was coming up, and everyone was calling him left hook and don't watch out for the left hook. I mean, he took care of that business. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he defended his title the longest span of time. I think it was 10 years that he stood and defended his title, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a record.
Is a record. I think it was 8 or 9 years. You know, but regardless, like you said, it was a long-standing defense of a title, and like you said, I think for most Americans, when Joe Calzaghe really hit the map was when he beat Jeff Lacy.
Yep.
And I mean, he destroyed Jeff Lacy. It wasn't just a beat. He destroyed him. And once again, the controversy came out. Well, yeah, that happens when you go over to the UK. That's that. But no, man. Jeff Left Hook Lacy, was one of our rising stars, and Joe Calzaghe destroyed him.
And just to give you an example, this guy left as an undefeated fighter. He retired as an undefeated fighter. Okay, never made the notion of coming back and fighting some bums just to beef up that thing to try to catch Rocky Marciano's record or anything. He retired 46-0. Okay, and this is the way he ended his career. After he beat Jeff Lacy, okay, he came right back and he beat Sakio Bika. Okay,
yes, Sakio was no easy out.
No, he was 21-1. Okay, then he took care of Peter Manfredo, okay, Jr., who was up and coming back east, okay, in the United States. After that, he took on Michael Kessler. Okay, now Mikhail Kessler. And don't forget, Mikhail was a champion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
He was a champion. My man Calzaghe defeated him, became champion, and when Calzaghe retired, Kessler came back and got champion again.
Yeah, of course.
So anyway, and then he took care of Bernard Hopkins in the United States and Roy Jones Jr. in the United States. Okay, so that's the way you end a boxing career, on top of your game, just on top of your game. And I'm telling you what.
So are you critical? You think he has a leg to stand on, not fighting a Andre Berto and then an MMA guy? You think that gives him some advantage? I mean, with his undefeated record.
Well, you know what I think. I think Calzaghe, if he wanted to come and get that 50-0, and
he can pick somebody.
He could do it. I mean, obviously they're doing that now, so there's just no reason why he couldn't do that. But that's not Calzaghe.
No.
That's not Calzaghe. That's not him. It never was him since he started. And naturally, you've got to give props to a boxer like that. I mean, there's very few boxers that come and go with an outstanding career such as Calzaghe, and we just want to give him his props. Man.
One thing I didn't know, Radio, until we were starting our research, further on Joe, is that as an amateur he was 110-10. I had no idea that
had a great amateur career.
Yes.
He did.
So, like you said, one of the unsung heroes. I mean, for the kids nowadays.
Yeah.
Because in 2014, Joe was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Okay, well deserved. No one was at all. There's no controversy on that. And one of the knocks now on the International Boxing Hall of Fame is kind of almost anybody's getting in there. It's a shame, but this is one that is well deserved and recognized. And like you said, it was long overdue that we did decide that we needed to do a piece on Joe Calzaghe.
Yeah, we just wanted to
definitely 46-0 with 32 KOs and top-notch competition all the way. Even at the end of his career, the knock was that he hadn't fought Roy or Bernard. He came to the United States and fought both of them.
Exactly.
Okay, so that ended his career on a positive note.
To Joe Calzaghe, his team out there, thumbs up on a fantastic boxing career and all the goodness you gave to all the boxing fans out there. That was just great. You inducted to the Hall of Fame rightfully. I don't think there should have ever been any controversy. There never was, but there couldn't be. I mean,
no.
Obviously, when they induct people like Sylvester Stallone, okay, who's never boxed, and sure, maybe they need to have a category for non-boxers
or media.
He wasn't even media.
Well, media
fans,
movie
stars, whatever. But whatever. But let's
attention bringers.
How
about that?
Let's leave this show on a high note for Calzaghe, man.
Yes.
Calzaghe, Southpaw, great.
Congratulations, Joe. Good job, man.
And Steve, I'll tell you what, we're going to come back with a couple of other segments. So until then, Steve,
as usual, this is through now.
Keep them hands up, baby.
Keep them hands up.